So let's talk about beauty. What is it, really? Today, we're going to dive into the work of a philosopher, Dietrich von Hildebrand, who has a pretty powerful challenge to an idea about beauty that, well, almost all of us take for granted. You've heard this a million times, right? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's this idea that beauty is totally subjective, just a matter of personal taste. But what if that's not the end of the story? What if beauty is something much more real? Well, this is where Hildebrand comes in and just completely flips the script. He argues that beauty isn't just a warm, fuzzy feeling we get. Nope. He says it's an objective value, something that actually exists out there in the world. It's a truth that we recognize, not one that we just make up in our heads. Okay, so let's really dig into this. A fleeting personal feeling or an objective fact about reality? Getting this distinction is pretty much the key to understanding everything else he talks about. Think about it this way. According to Hildebrand, when you see a jaw-droppingly beautiful sunset, you're not just saying, hey, I like that. You're actually recognizing a quality, a truth that exists in the sunset itself, completely separate from you. Your emotional response is one thing, but the beauty itself is an objective reality. And here's where it gets really serious. Hildebrand says that when we respond the right way to beauty, when we acknowledge it, we're actually affirming truth and goodness. But if we fail to respond, or even worse, if we call something ugly beautiful, that points to a kind of spiritual deadness. It's like we're inviting disorder into the world. Okay, so if beauty is a real, objective thing, are there different kinds of it? According to Hildebrand, you bet there are. And he breaks them down into a couple of main types. Let's take a look. So, on one side, you have what he calls metaphysical beauty. This is the beauty of things like virtue or moral goodness. And then on the other side, you have the beauty of the second power. This is the kind we usually think of, the beauty you find in a great piece of art, in music, or out in nature. All right, let's unpack this a bit, because the difference is pretty cool. Metaphysical beauty comes from a moral source, like the incredible charity of a saint. Hildebrand says it's like a fragrance that speaks of that person's good character. But the beauty of the second power, the kind you find in a painting, that's different. The painting itself is more like a pedestal that holds up a beauty pointing to something much, much higher. And this is the main takeaway right here. The beauty of a virtuous action tells you something about the person doing it. But the beauty of a breathtaking symphony or a majestic mountain range, that points beyond itself. It points toward a higher, transcendent reality. He even calls it a quasi-sacramental beauty.
Now, this is where things get really interesting. If beauty is this profound, what's its true opposite? You might immediately think, well, ugliness, obviously. But for Hildebrand, the answer is way more nuanced than that.
So let's pull back the curtain on the more subtle forces that are actually working against beauty, especially the kind we find in art and nature. So first up, we have the prosaic. And this isn't just about being plain or simple. He calls it a mechanization of the spirit. It's this deep, dull sobriety that just blocks out any kind of poetry or wonder. In fact, he argues nothing in nature is truly prosaic because every single thing that exists has its own dignity. Next is the Philistine. And this one's a bit more aggressive. It's all about mediocrity. It's that lukewarm, non-committal, I don't really care either way attitude that just shuns anything absolute. It's a spirit that, as one writer put it, hates nothing as much as true beauty. And the third enemy? The trivial. This is basically pseudo-beauty. It's art that's weak, empty, and just boring because it has no real substance. Real beauty, on the other hand, has this sense of necessity to it. It feels like it couldn't possibly be any other way. Okay, so we've talked philosophy, but how does any of this apply to the world we actually live in? Well, the implications are huge, and you can see them all around us. Hildebrand argued that starting around the mid-20th century, our world has been going through what he called a general bleaching of beauty. It's this increasing starkness, this loss of poetry and richness in our daily lives, and it has some really profound consequences. And you can see the cost of this everywhere, can't you? Think about architecture that feels soul-crushing, that almost seems designed to engineer hopelessness. Or art that's all about telling you the world is a chaotic, meaningless mess. The aesthetics of our world are a form of culture crafting. And this is the absolute core of the argument. It's not just in your head. Just as real beauty has an objective power to lift you up, ugliness has an objective power to drag you down. And here's the kicker. It happens whether you're consciously aware of it or not.
So this all leads to the final and maybe the most profound piece of the puzzle, the powerful bond that beauty has with truth and ultimately with love.
See, for Hildebrand, you just can't pull these things apart. Beauty, morality, and love are all deeply woven together. He says that beauty and morality go hand in hand. Just think about the sublime beauty of Christ's love. It is beautiful because it is also the highest moral good.
And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? What Hildebrand is suggesting is that when we have a genuine experience with beauty, the feeling it creates inside of us is actually a form of love. It's not just looking at something nice, it's a spiritual experience that affirms our place in the world.
So we're left with this really big question. If our surroundings are actually objectively shaping who we are, if beauty uplifts us and ugliness degrades us, then we have to take a serious look at the world we're all building and ask, what is it shaping us into?